did you know your cells carry the remnant of a bacterium that lived independently billions of years ago? We call it the cell's powerhouse, but the real story is far more interesting. An organelle with its own DNA that divides by its own rules and that can make you sick when it breaks down. Mitochondria might be one of the most misunderstood structures in medical school. Most people know it only as an energy factory, but it's actually at the center of both an evolutionary mystery and one of modern medicine's most active research fields. Today we're covering three sides of mitochondria: energy production, origin, and disease. Every cell of yours contains hundreds, sometimes thousands of mitochondria. Muscle cells and neurons carry even more because these cells constantly need energy. The mitochondrian's job is to convert the chemical energy in the food you eat into a form the cell can actually use and spend, ATP. This happens through the electron transport chain in the mitochondrian's inner membrane. As electrons from your food pass through a series of protein complexes, a proton gradient builds up across the membrane. An enzyme called ATP synthase uses that gradient to produce ATP, much like a dam converts the flow and pressure of water into electricity. Through aerobic respiration, a single glucose molecule can yield dozens of ATP molecules. That's why mitochondria are called the cell's powerhouse. Though that nickname only captures a small part of the story, it might sound like it should be the same everywhere, but mitochondria count actually varies by cell type. A liver cell might hold hundreds of mitochondria, while a heart muscle cell can hold thousands because the heart never stops working and constantly needs energy. Mature red blood cells, on the other hand, have none at all. Why? Their job is to carry oxygen. They produce their own energy through other pathways, and having no mitochondria frees up internal space for hemoglobin instead. The electrons that reach the electron transport chain actually start their journey earlier. During glycolysis in the Krebs cycle, nutrients get broken down and these electrons get collected. We'll get into those cycles in a separate video, but for now, here's what matters. The mitochondrion is the final stop where energy carriers from different parts of the cell get converted into the end product, yes, ATP. The way ATP synthase works is basically a feat of engineering. As the proton gradient flows through this enzyme, part of it physically rotates like the wheel of a watermill. Each full rotation produces a few ATP molecules. Scientists describe this structure as one of the smallest known molecular motors in nature. The traffic of energy here is so intense that over the course of a day, your body produces and consumes an amount of ATP close to your own body weight. This happens because the same ATP molecules get constantly built and broken down and reused. It doesn't mean your body stores that much ATP at any given moment. What we can take from this: mitochondria are an extremely hardworking critical cellular organelle. It's also possible to make a small amount of ATP without oxygen. That's called substrate level phosphorylation, and it happens in the cell's cytoplasm. But this pathway is far less efficient than the electron transport chain. The real bulk of energy production comes from oxidative phosphorylation inside the mitochondrion, where oxygen is involved. That's why during intense exercise, when oxygen can't keep up, your body switching to the anaerobic pathway isn't really mitochondria shutting down, it's mitochondria not being able to keep pace. Here's where it gets interesting. Mitochondria have their own circular DNA. Just like bacteria do, they also have a double membrane and use their own ribosomes to produce some of their proteins independently. Based on this evidence, scientists proposed the endosymbiotic theory. About 1.5 to 2 billion years ago, the ancestor of our cells engulfed a bacterium, but instead of digesting and consuming it, it entered into a partnership with it. The bacterium gave the cell the ability to produce energy, and the cell gave it a safe place to live. Over time, this relationship went so far that mitochondria can no longer survive independently outside the cell. The two essentially became dependent on each other. Here's something that might surprise you. Your mitochondrial DNA comes only from your mother. That's because during fertilization, only the egg cell contributes mitochondria. There's more evidence supporting this theory. The mitochondrial genome has shrunk dramatically compared to free-living bacteria, and over time, it transferred many of its genes to the host cell's nucleus and now carries only the core genes it needs for its own function. Mitochondria can also divide on their own, independent of cell division, just like bacteria do. The same story plays out in plants, by the way. Chloroplasts, the organelles that carry out photosynthesis, were once free-living photosynthetic bacteria that became part of the cell through a similar endosymbiotic process. So this wasn't a one-time event in evolutionary history. It's a strategy that's repeated across many species. When this theory was first proposed, the scientific community didn't take it very seriously. People were quite biased against the idea. In the 1960s, biologist Lynn Margulis defended it in detail, and for years it was rejected. Her papers were turned down again and again. But as molecular biology advanced, especially once the similarity between mitochondrial DNA and bacterial DNA became clear, the theory gained acceptance, and today it stands as a well-established fact with almost no debate around it. Here's another strong piece of evidence. Certain antibiotics work by targeting bacterial ribosomes to stop protein production. Interestingly, some of these antibiotics can also affect the mitochondria's own ribosomes because mitochondrial ribosomes resemble bacterial ribosomes far more than they resemble our own cells' ribosomes. It's one more clue pointing straight back to where mitochondria came from. Mitochondria don't just produce energy. When their structure or function breaks down, the consequences can be serious. Mutations in mitochondrial DNA can lead to rare genetic diseases like MELIS and MERV, which hit hardest in tissues with high energy demand, muscle and the nervous system. There's an interesting twist to these diseases. Since a single cell contains hundreds of mitochondria, they don't all mutate at once. Some mitochondria carry healthy DNA, others carry mutated DNA, a state called heteroplasmy. Once the proportion of mutated mitochondria crosses a certain threshold, the cell stops functioning properly and symptoms appear. That threshold effect is why the same mutation can hit some people hard and barely touch others. Researchers are also studying whether declining mitochondrial function with age is part of the broader process of cellular aging. One reason, the electron transport chain produces reactive oxygen species as a byproduct, and these can damage cellular components. The cell does have a defense, a process called mitophagy, where damaged mitochondria get identified, broken down, and replaced with new ones. Whether this quality control system slows down with age is something researchers have been digging into in recent years. Scientists also believe mitochondrial dysfunction plays a role in neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's. This research goes beyond neurodegenerative disease. Scientists are also studying the relationship between mitochondrial function and insulin resistance in type 2 diabetes. And there's a curious finding in cancer research too. Many cancer cells prefer glycolysis, a less efficient but faster energy pathway, even when oxygen is plentiful. This is called the Warburg effect. Exactly why this happens is still under investigation, but researchers continue studying how it might contribute to how fast cancer cells grow. All these areas remain active research, which means saying something like, if your mitochondria break down, you'll get this disease would not be scientifically accurate. On the flip side, mitochondria aren't a fixed structure. Their number and efficiency can shift based on what the cell needs. Regular exercise, for instance, can trigger the formation of new mitochondria in muscle cells, a process called mitochondrial biogenesis. That alone says a lot about how dynamic this organelle really is. Put it all together, and mitochondria turn out to be a critical organelle, and one that makes life possible, and one that can also set the stage for disease when it breaks down. So mitochondria aren't just a powerhouse, they're an ancient partner living inside your cells and a major factor in your health. As much as they generate energy, they're also at the center of what scientists are most curious about when things go wrong. Next video, we're breaking down what detox diets actually mean from a scientific standpoint. If you enjoyed this, subscribe and turn on notifications.